Hey guys, I hope you are doing well. I hope you are staying well. I'm really sad we won't be back for the semester. I'm really sorry you guys got kind of kicked out of your dorms. That sucks. But I understand why they did it, and I understand why they had to do that. For the rest of the semester, we're going to be doing lectures like this. I'm going to post them on YouTube. I will give you links. So this way you have flexibility. You can watch the lecture when you have time. If you have time during the day, you can watch multiples at a time if you need to, and that's perfectly fine as well. I will be available via Zoom on Tuesday, Thursday at 3, so that we can ask questions, have discussions, or if you just need to kind of get away from it all and focus on something else, we'll be there to talk and chat and whatnot. Otherwise, I am looking at new grading schemes. I am looking at new assignments and obviously some flexibility in those assignments. As long as I've got like at least 3 grades for you guys at the end of the semester, I will be happy. I just want to see that you are working with the information, that you are paying attention to the information, and that you're thinking about it. That's really my big thing right now. I'm not too worried about due dates. I'm not too worried about the normal persnickety stuff. Now is not the time to be persnickety, so we're just gonna try to get through the semester, get your guys' grades in, so that your time that you have devoted to this semester is not wasted. All right. I am really, really hopeful that we will come back next semester, that you can all return, that we can all kind of go back home academically. I really, really want to get back in the classroom and see everybody and talk and have those really great conversations that you guys bring to class. So, here's to hoping. Here's to seeing you next semester. All right. But in the meantime, stay well and watch the videos as when you can. They are not going to be the full hour and a half because we are going to have the time on Zoom to discuss and whatnot. Also, please be aware I'm not editing these at all. So if the doorbell goes off or someone drops something in the kitchen, you get to hear that. Yay! Likewise, my cat will probably pop in at some point because she's a little needy. And she loves to come in and bug me while I'm working. My sister Caroline is also bored at the moment, so she may be popping in and playing the peanut gallery, commenting and whatnot. So I'm hoping that things will be, not boring. Try to make it as interesting as possible, because I know sitting and watching a screen for an hour or so can be kind of... So either way, I hope to see you soon, and we are now going to get started on Islam. All right? All right. So welcome to the quarantine classes. I'm so not happy about this, but that's okay. We're going to make the best of this, and it's going to be great, or at least as great as it can be. I'm going with it. All right. Let's get going on Islam. We didn't really get into it. I am sure that I will likely repeat some information that I already gave you, but I gave it to you in kind of a hurry and at the last second, and you guys were probably not paying all that much attention, and repetition's good anyway. All right, so here we go. And as requested, you get your PowerPoints. Yay! I hope. As always, please let me know. Give me some feedback if there's something I can do to make this better. To make this an easier thing, please let me know, and I will definitely try to do that. Okay. We are starting before the Prophet. Blessings be upon him. We're going to start before him in Mecca. All right. So this is just a quick map of Saudi Arabia. This is modern day. Riyadh is their capital. But Mecca is a kind of the capital of Islam. So it's really the focal point of the religion. And the focal point within Mecca is the Kaaba. Remember, economics and religion are always, always, always tied together. You cannot untie them. Maybe you can untie it from politics, maybe. I have some doubts about that too, but always economics and religion. So let's take a look. The Kaaba and Mecca were places of pilgrimage for the Bedouin tribes that were wandering through there. Politics or rather economics and religion always tied together and tied to pilgrimage. One of the reasons that pilgrimage points or places that people take pilgrimages to is a huge economic boon because masses of people go there, right? So in the West, we have here some examples of Catholicism. Catholics go to cathedrals and try to see the Pope. They want to have Mass with the Pope. So this is in Rome, especially the one on the right outdoors. That's, one of those times when the Pope was probably going to be there. And so people from all over the world are there to see the Pope and be blessed by him. If you're an art history nerd like myself, you would also go to the cathedrals just to see the architecture and the art involved. It is so incredibly beautiful. It's really amazing. If you get a chance to see those buildings, you really should. Another example of this for other forms of Christianity as well, this is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Christians go to the ancient Near East, to Israel, all the time on pilgrimage to walk in the steps of Jesus, to go to Calvary where he was crucified. This is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, so this is supposedly where he was buried. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know that there's a body there even, and I can assure you that archaeologists would not be allowed in to dig. But this church goes back to the Roman period. It is very, very ancient, and people have been pilgrimaging there for a very, very long, long time. So it's an incredibly important focus for Christianity. But it's not just true in the West. In the East, there are pilgrimages as well. So we have an example here from Shikoku, Japan. So there's this island, and it's called the 88 Temple Pilgrimage. It is affiliated with a Buddhist monk, Kukai. Along with the pilgrims who can take 30 to 60 days to do it, there is a whole economy around it. And this is going to be true of the cathedrals. It's going to be true of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It's going to be true of Nazareth, where Jesus was born. It's going to be true of all kinds of places around the world, right? So you get a pilgrimage point and you're going to have hotels and restaurants and holy objects that can be sold as keepsakes, objects that might be sold as sacrifices. You might buy incense so that you can place it in the incense holder in a temple and light it. You might buy candles so that you can light them and leave them behind in the temple. You might buy holy water or any number of other things that might be blessed by the place or the priests around that place. You can also, of course, find industries that grow up because people break the straps on their sandals, or they spill coffee all over their shirt, or they need a hat, they need suntan lotion, they forgot their toothbrush at home. There's all kinds of things that get sold and services that get sold around pilgrimage sites. This is true now. It was true 100 years ago. It was true 1,000 years ago. It was true 5,000 years ago. I mentioned in class the temple at Eridu as the first temple, the oldest temple that we can find in the ancient Near East. The Bedouin tribes wandering around the ancient Near East came to Eridu and left behind sacrifices. But because it was a place where multiple tribes are gathering, it becomes a place of trade. It becomes a focal point for buying and selling and trading and bartering and all kinds of stuff like that. So these economic points, like Shikoku, like the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, like Mecca, become massive places for economic activity. So let's take a look at this. Mecca is the focal point. Remember, religion and economics are always, tied together. So Mecca is a major focal point for trade activity. So here we have Old Mecca. Notice it's spelled a little differently. Whenever you translate from one language to another, spelling can be a little off, and depending on the dialect that you're working from, the vowels might be off as well. So Makkah, Mecca, there's a place in Israel called Akko that has like 5 different names in the literature. And if you don't know that, you get very confused because you thought you were looking at Akko, but now it's spelled Acre. What? Right? But that's actually just another name for Akko. So just be flexible and, just take it with take it kind of as it comes and go with the flow. So Mecca and the Kaaba is there kind of in the center, the black and white building in the center there. The Kaaba held the tribal gods. And there were hundreds of gods in there. All the different tribes had lots of different gods. They were Bedouins. They have their kind of tribe patron god. And they're all polytheistic, or at the very least henotheistic. So polytheism is the worship of many gods. Henotheism is the worship of one god above the other gods. You might still worship other gods, but you're going to prefer one over the other. Okay, make sure I got everything I wanted to do on that slide. What is a Bedouin, just in case you don't know? A Bedouin is a person who belongs to a larger tribe, and they wander around, usually in the desert. It's an ancient Near Eastern thing. So they're wandering around the desert on camels and donkeys, and they are kind of like almost sort of like the Native Americans that wandered around a lot. They're going in search of resources. They set up their tents, they stay for a while, they break down, they move on. They're trading, they're collecting resources to trade, they're constantly looking for food and water, and they're always looking for, they're always on the move, creating economic activity throughout the ancient Near East. Some of the tribes did settle down. The Qurayshi tribe settled down around Mecca and had control of the Kaaba. So why would you leave that? Because that's a massive boon. But they were initially Bedouins. They did wander around at first, and there are actually still Bedouin tribes active in the ancient Near East. Their tents are really beautiful and really big. So if you ever get a chance to go to the Middle East, keep an eye out for them. All right. During the time of the Prophet, the Silk Road was very, very active. So the Prophet is coming up and doing his thing around the 7th century, very end of the 7th century. And at this time, the Silk Road is heading toward its height in the 8th century. So it's a really good time to be a trader. Goods are being traded all along the Silk Road. And of course, every time there's a stop off, every time there's a trade station, every time you put down your tents or whatever for the night or the week or whatever, there's a tax being collected. So that's just adding to the amount of money that's trading hands during this time. So you can see the purple lines are actually the Silk Road. Mecca, which is pretty far down into Saudi Arabia, is not on a purple line. It's actually on kind of a secondary line, and not even really that. Mecca is not actually a really big hotbed for trade, relatively speaking, to other areas. You can see, for example, Syria and Turkey. Greece is a massive point. There's massive amounts of money trading hands there. Relative to those spots, Mecca is small potatoes. But there is a fair amount of money being traded there, and because it is a pilgrimage site, all of those Bedouin tribes are going in and out of there all year long. And so even though they're not necessarily directly trading with people from China or people from India or even, Russia or Turkey, that stuff is coming down into the Saudi peninsula and is probably being traded to a slightly lesser degree in Mecca. All right, here's another map to kind of show you where these trade routes are. Notice I had to add Mecca to this one by hand. Not very well, but I did. And it's not even on that secondary trade route, right? You have to go off the beaten path to get to Mecca. But again, because it's a religious focal point, it's going to be a trade focal point, and there's a lot of taxes being collected there. All right. And because it has all the gods, all of those Bedouin tribes are going to make it there at least once a year. All right. The prophet, blessings be upon him. The prophet was born around 570. There is some question about that number. His birth date was not recorded. Birth dates are not a big deal in the ancient Near East. They were not. They probably are now, but that's a Western influence. But he's born into a well-to-do family and a very wealthy tribe, the Qurayshi tribe. But he was orphaned as a child. His mother died when he was very young, and his father died, I want to say when he was 8 or so, which is really unfortunate, but he was adopted by his uncle, which is really, really helpful. Right? I'm assuming you realize we don't have pictures of Muhammad, but I wanted to show you what he might have looked like as a Bedouin. Unlike other founders of religion, there is no miracle birth story. So like Jesus is born of a virgin. Moses doesn't have a miracle birth story, but he was saved by a miracle, right? He was supposed to be killed according to Pharaoh, but his mother puts him in a reed basket and puts him, kind of sets him a sail down the Nile River, and he gets adopted by an Egyptian princess. So that's kind of a miracle in its own. Muhammad doesn't have a miracle birth story, which is really interesting. And one of the things that Islam does is they really try to emphasize the humanity of the prophet. He is not divine. He is not God in any way, shape, or form. He is a prophet. That is it. So in theory, he's like a perfect person, but he's still a person. All right? Oh, let me see, make sure I've got everything. So he lost his parents, which is an archetype. Very often people who do, or religious figures who do amazing things are either orphaned. Moses was set adrift by his mother. Jesus wasn't an orphan, but he got the miracle birth, so that he got covered there. So he's an orphan, part of the archetype. It's not really surprising because if you have people who are brought up in stable families with both parents and everybody's happy their whole life, they rarely do anything to rock that boat. They don't tend to change the status quo. Whether or not he was actually orphaned, nobody can actually say historically, but that is the story that is passed down in Islam. All right? Let's see here. His uncle adopts him. Now, why does that matter? It matters because within tribal societies, the protection of your family is everything. Your family is part of the tribe or part of a clan, which is part of a tribe, and you've got to have the protection of the tribe. But that protection boils down to your family, your parentage. So Muhammad becomes kind of the client of his uncle. And you can see, I've put this graphic up, a patron, which would be his uncle, kind of a surrogate parent, gives protection, money, and access. And as a client, an adopted, sort of adopted child, They give loyalty, thanks, and allegiance, and they help out, right? Let's see here. So what this really means is that all of the wild and crazy ideas that he had about God and whatnot don't really get him in trouble at first, right? So when he first has his initial thoughts about this, he started trying to rock the boat, but because he was under his uncle's protection, and his uncle was a pretty powerful person within the tribe, nobody bothered him. They just kind of let him go on his way. So even before the revelation of the Quran, he was leaning towards a radical monotheism, which again, it's not that monotheism was unheard of by any means, but it was kind of annoying to people who you were trying to tell them their God is not a real God. They tend to get annoyed by that. But Judaism is there because remember, the Jews have been exiled by now. Rome kicked them out, and they've been out wandering around, and they're all over the place, including in Saudi Arabia. So monotheism is not unheard of. But that monotheism is practiced alongside polytheism. So I can say, I worship my God is the only God, your gods aren't real gods, but that doesn't mean that I tell you that you're wrong. I don't diminish you, I don't demean you, I just do my thing over here. All right. So he's starting to be annoying, but he's not really rocking the boat yet. And because of that, he's left alone. Without the protection of his family, though, and his uncle does die pretty within a few years of his, I want to say, it was a little before the revelation. His uncle dies, and without the protection of your family, and here's the kicker, if someone harms you or even kills you, there's no one there to get vengeance. And there's no independent judicial branch that will protect everybody in the tribe. If you don't have family that has a grievance with you being harmed, nobody cares. And so it can be very, very dangerous. All right. So the prophet is out on the Bedouin trails, and he's trading and he's doing his thing. This woman who is kind of a weird, what's the word I'm looking for? She's unique. She is, she's the only woman on the trade routes. She's the only businesswoman who is independently wealthy. She somehow got the inheritance from her late husband, at least we think. But she has wealth of her own, and she is conducting business. Women didn't do this at the time. In fact, if you were married and your husband died, as a woman, you go back to your father's house. You don't inherit the wealth of your husband. If you have a son, he inherits the wealth. If you don't have a son, his family inherits the wealth. And as the wife, you just go back to your husband, to your father's house. Khadijah is different. And that's really, she's kind of this weird anomaly that provides a really interesting example of something different. So eventually, she hires Muhammad through a friend or a cousin because she hears about him being trustworthy and a good businessman. She hires him to lead a caravan that she's running on the trade routes. She is legendary because she's the only woman with a successful business on the trails. She's breaking all the social protocols, but Muhammad goes to work for her anyway. She hires him. He does a fantastic job. He brings back like twice the expected profits. And so she asks him to marry her. Again, this is a weird, unique thing that seems to happen. Women are not supposed to ask to be married. They wait until they are asked. But she asks him. According to the Shia, which is one sect in Islam, she was 25 at the time. But according to the Sunni, which is the other sect, she was 40. But we'll get to the split later. Just let that go for now. Point being, we're not really sure how old she was, but she was supposedly older than Muhammad, which is, again, a very weird thing. So while he's with Khadija, after they get married, Muhammad goes out during the night, and he's out praying and meditating in some caves nearby, which is very typical for other Jewish and Christian mystics and religious, highly religious people. He goes out there and he has this mystical experience that is really traumatizing, which he gets to do 3 times, unfortunately. He comes back and he is wrecked. He is freaked out. He is visited by the angel Gabriel. And the Gabriel apparently, kind of squeezes him in some way and tells him to recite. And it freaks him right the hell out, and he doesn't know what he's supposed to recite, and it's a whole thing. But the story goes, the Quran was given to him, the entire Quran on those 3 nights. Most of the time they talk about it as a night of power. I think that just refers to the first night. I'm not really sure. But the story, the rest of the story goes that it took place over 3 nights. It could be the first 2 nights were a waste of time because he didn't know what he was doing. I'm not really sure. Either way, after this, he gets home to Khadija. She comforts him and tries to help him. He now has the Quran, in theory. That's a problem we'll get to later on. And he starts to proselytize his family and his community, and that becomes a problem. Because he's not just saying, hey, we should be monotheists, like the Jews kind of. He's saying, hey, we have to be radical monotheists, and y'all need to get the rest of your gods out. You're going to hell, and if you don't worship correctly, if you don't follow me, you're going to be condemned, and I don't have to deal with you because you're going to be condemned. And people don't like it when you say things like that. It became very annoying. Khadija becomes his first follower, and then he gets a few cousins on his side. Remember, he was an only child, so he doesn't have any brothers or sisters. But he does get this little community together, and then they become proselytizers, meaning they go out and they try to convert people to think the way that they think. And they all become annoying to the tribes and whatnot at Mecca, including the Qurayshi tribe, his own tribe, who has really had it with him. Because they make their living, they make their money based on the other tribes coming into Mecca to worship at the Kaaba. Okay? And if the Kaaba is invalid in some way, shape, or form, they're going to quit coming, and the money's going to dry up, and that's a problem. All right. So he and his followers flee to Yathrib, later called Medina. And he becomes a more powerful spiritual leader, but he also becomes a political leader as well. I don't think he really wanted that, but it's really hard to be a leader and not be a political leader on some level. Yathrib is on the trade routes, and it actually has more potential for money than Mecca. And Muhammad takes advantage of this and starts offering deals, and he starts doing some caravan raiding. He's going out there and they're taking what they can from the caravans, and then they're redirecting the caravans to Yathrib. This means that they are taking a bite out of the money of Mecca, and that becomes a big problem. And so it creates a lot of tension between him and his home family and his home, geographical home of Mecca. Eventually, he does go back to Mecca victoriously, and he cleans out the Kaaba. He cleans it out of all the different gods except one. He keeps Jesus in the Kaaba because he considers the Christians and the Jews to be monotheistic. They are people of the book. They don't understand it exactly correctly, but they have tried to follow the other prophets that God sent before him. And so he doesn't really have a problem with them, and he doesn't need to convert them. He's perfectly fine to let them do their own thing. All right. Let's see here. Yeah. So his only problem is with the polytheists, specifically the polytheists at Mecca. All right. Henotheism is a modern word. It's not a word that you're going to find in other religious texts, especially ancient texts. All right, he continues his work, and then eventually he dies in the arms of his youngest wife, Aisha. He is a polygamist. He does have many wives. This looks to be more about politics. Marrying into different tribes, into different groups, is a political move, and it creates a way to communicate and a greater pressure to create peace with those other people. He also recommended that people be monotheistic, and when he was with Khadijah, he was not monotheistic, monogamous. That's the word I'm looking for. When he was with Khadijah, he was a monogamous with her. Later on in Yathrib, he married more women. Khadijah had already passed away at the time. And so a lot of these marriages look like they were more political than they were out of love. However, Aisha, his youngest wife, seems to have been a focus of great sentiment for him. So, take that as you will. She is the daughter of a man named Abu Bakr. She was reportedly his favorite wife, notwithstanding Khadijah. I would say she was probably even more favorite, but she was not alive at the time. He was betrothed to Aisha when she was like 6, but he did not marry her until she came of age, which is actually pretty normal for the time. Ancient cultures do this a lot, especially with arranged marriages. When children are very, very young, their marriage is often decided, especially at upper levels of political and socioeconomic levels. So try not to be too judgy about this. The ancient world didn't function the same way we do. Muhammad had gone back to Medina, Yathrib, to live out his life after going into Mecca victoriously. There is a question. Sometimes they say she was incredibly young because they want to prove that she was a virgin before he married her. This is very important. Again, in the ancient world, this was a big deal because this question of paternity and a certain amount of ownership, I think, as well. But whatever, right? So let me make sure I've got everything. The other thing this does is that because if she was a virgin before she married him, after he passes away, it gives her more political power, more what's the word I'm looking for? More. They take her more seriously, right? Because she only knew Muhammad, kind of a thing. So they take her more seriously when she talks about what he would have wanted or what she thinks the right course of action is, which is a big deal. And again, for a woman to have any say at all is a big deal. But they do listen to her. Many stories portray her almost as a soulmate. And remember, by that time, Khadijah was gone. There is a story about adultery with her. While they were traveling, she gets out of her little, it's kind of almost like a bedroom that sits on the camel's back. And she leaves it because she left behind a necklace or she lost it. And she gets out of her little area that's got curtains on it. She leaves, she goes to look for the necklace, and while she's out looking for the necklace, because she's a little tiny thing, right, nobody notices that she's gone, and the camel gets up and goes away because no one realizes it's a lot lighter, right? And the caravan moves on. That night, when she's wandering around the desert alone, one of Muhammad's workmen comes and finds her, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" they spend the night in a small oasis nearby, and then the next day he takes her to the meeting point. Now, of course, people look at it, oh, it was an affair and she was unfaithful and blah, blah, blah. And they're about ready to charge her as an adult and indict her as an adult or an adulterer. However, Muhammad goes to her and, asks her, did you do it? She protests her innocence, of course. And he asks for a sign from God, and he prays about it, and God sends him a sign that she was faithful, and he goes out and tells them to get the hell away. Another story that I've heard is that he asked them for 3 eyewitnesses, and without 3 eyewitnesses, you need to shut the hell up and move on with your life, and that's what they do. So she continues to be his favorite even after. So with that revelation, he, clears her name, and eventually the prophet dies in her arms. When he passes away, he goes to her room and lays, with his head in her lap, and she comforts him as he passes away. So she becomes a really interesting character for Muslim feminists who are trying to shift the focus of the religion toward being more inclusive and being more equitable. So what happens when the founder dies? We've talked about this, right? Everything splits. It becomes a big question of what did the founder mean when he said, what do we do about this new situation? What would the founder have said, right? What would have Muhammad said about this new issue? The whole thing splits, and now we have two major sects of Islam, and within those 2 major ones, we have a huge number of little smaller ones as well. Right. So we're going to talk about the split. As you can see, my sister has joined me. Okay, there we go. That's Caroline. She is the peanut gallery.
Yep.
And she's enjoying a coconut cookie.
Oh, I am. What do you call a child who is born from parents, one who is Sunni and one who's Shia?
What?
Sushi.
Cute. I like that.
Yeah, it's a good one.
I like that one. That's good. Were you listening in before?
Uh-huh.
Was it fascinating?
It was fascinating. You're always fascinating.
Aw. That's very sweet.
She is. She knows way too much. Not about fashion, though, like me.
No, definitely not. No, I was never a fashionista.
I mean, look at me.
There you go.
Ouch.
It wasn't playing well on the camera.
No. I'm not playing well on the camera. I've been tasting every bit of food that we have in this house.
Eating your anxiety?
Yep. Eating my feelings.
I'll make some challah later so you can eat that.
I am a hollowback girl.
We got some eggs, so we can do that now. We have a lot of eggs now. What?
And we have that really good, honey that's raw.
Oh, yeah.
Like
that really good honey.
Yeah. It's like shishi honey.
Oh, hi, Tubbins. So speaking of family members, like I said before, my cat is Needy. Hey, look at the camera.
No, she is not. She's only going to look at you. Oh my God, she looked.
So this is Tubbins, and she loves to walk across my desk while I'm working. So I am sure she will be interrupting us. Oh, and probably messing with the mic a lot. There you go. There you go. Get in your cat tree. Okay. Hopefully that wasn't really messy on the mic. I apologize if it was. So let's get back to Islam. All right. So remember I was talking about the prophet passes away, and immediately when the founder of a religion dies, everybody is fighting about the details.
All hell breaks loose.
Kind of.
Yeah, really.
So in Islam, what are the two big factions?
Sunni and Shia.
Thank you. Do-do-do. All right. There you go. See, it's a lovely graphic, Sunni and Shia.
And they're
All right.
having a tug of war.
They are having a tug of war.
But it almost makes it look like they're at a picnic.
Like,
Like, oh, it's the Sunni Shia picnic.
I don't think they've had those.
I don't think they have.
Yeah, it's awkward. All right. So Shia Islam, we're going to look at the kind of minority group first, is Shia. They are the followers of Ali. Do you know who Ali is?
Ali is God.
No, that's Allah.
Oops.
So Ali ibn Abi Talib. There you go. They have very long names. Ali was a really close friend to the Prophet and a cousin. He was a very early convert to Islam. He's known as like the first male convert. What this really means is he was the second convert, because the first convert was Khadijah. They like to call her the first female convert, right? Like, no, she was the first convert. Let's just make this clear. He was much younger than the Prophet, so he was like 10 or so when he converted.
I feel like that was a little early to make a decision.
Yeah, but in the ancient world, guys especially, have to grow up really fast.
Oh, so was he like middle-aged at 10?
Kinda.
Okay.
He was in his young adulthood almost.
So he was like married and shit.
Okay, so let's call it 12 or 13. I mean,
Okay.
there's debate.
So he was married.
No, not him. The guys marry later on
Dude,
because
if
they
he
have to
was, like,
support
13,
wives.
He was married.
He was no. If she had been 13, she would have been married. But the guys marry
An
later.
old hag at 13.
Oof!
She could have been a widow.
Ouch!
Just saying.
Yikes! Anyway, much younger than the Prophet, but was reportedly very mature for his age. Hi, Tubbs. You gotta go, girl. There you go. Go back in your tree. He's very mature for his age, but he supported the Prophet in everything he did. So, he was kind of one of the first disciples, if we want to draw that parallel to Christianity. Jesus had his 12 disciples who were followers and wanted to learn everything.
And Ali had this guy.
And Ali had the Prophet. This guy.
Just this guy.
That is Ali.
I know, but he just had
The Prophet.
Muhammad.
Yeah.
Didn't Muhammad have Ali? Oh my God, Muhammad Ali. Sorry, I just did that math. Holy crap.
Okay. So Ali had Muhammad as a teacher, and Muhammad had Ali as a disciple. How about that?
There you go. That makes more sense.
They have each other, but not in a Greek way.
And then Muhammad died, and Ali created Islam.
No.
No, I'm so
No.
sorry. Scratch that. Muhammad died, and Ali created the Shia faction.
Well, his followers created the Shia faction. Okay, so here's the story.
I'm going to shut up.
Okay, just give me a minute.
You're the teacher.
Okay, so here's the story. The Prophet dies, right? So Ali is an early convert. Ali is with the Prophet all the way through. Follows him, learns from him, is very mature for his age, is very wise and very learned in the ways of the Prophet, etc. All right, very close inner circle friend. Really big on understanding the Prophet and what he was doing and saying. Seems to have been one of kind of the de facto leaders of the group in many ways in Yathrib, right, Medina. And after the death of the Prophet, while Ali was cleaning the body, a bunch of other people got together to make a decision about the future leadership of the group without Ali there.
Is that how we got...
Sunni.
Ooh. Oh.
Yeah.
That is not cool.
It's so rude. I know.
Go to the store.
My nephew's
You
going to
pause.
the store, by the way.
I'll be right back.
Okay. So the followers of Ali who considered him the rightful successor or the first caliph, became what is called the Shia. And what you have here is a Shia mosque in Iran, and you can see the mosques are beautiful. When Kara gets back, she'll have a comment on this too, I think. So he is considered the first caliph and or sometimes the first imam. A caliph is more of kind of a political leader. An imam is a purely religious leader, but very often terms get used, they kind of overlap. I won't say they get used interchangeably, but they definitely overlap. So he, for some people, they consider Ali the first caliph / imam. All right? As appointed by the Prophet, they try to assert that the Prophet designated Ali the next leader. But there's questions about that and some who don't accept that.
Who's trying to posit that?
The followers of Ali.
Is this like the grounds for the fight between the two of them?
Yes. But isn't that beautiful? That's inside a mosque in Iran.
It's absolutely stunning. There's so much beautiful architecture in
Oh
Iran.
my God, I know.
It's not fair.
Okay, so what?
So one guy is doing a beautiful thing, cleaning the body of the great leader
Yes.
of their
Yes.
religion, and totally gets thrown under the bus.
Kinda. It seems
And
rude.
Nobody feels guilty about that.
Well, you know. So here's the thing, is that the Prophet did make it clear that the leadership role was not hereditary. It was not something that could be passed down because of family lines. Now, does that mean it cannot be passed down to someone within the family? Is a different question, right?
So in other words, it doesn't have to go through family lines.
Right. It should be, the leader should be elected by the community.
Right.
Right. So you cannot claim leadership based on blood. So the Shia make up about 15% of the Muslim community worldwide. There are countries with majority Shia people, like Iran and Iraq. There are many subgroups within the Shia. And as a larger group, they have developed very differently from what is called Sunni Islam or Sunni Muslims. The Shia have also adopted a belief that there is a hidden imam, so a hidden religious leader, that as kind of like a messianic figure that will come and will fill the world with justice.
Excuse me.
What?
What does the word messianic mean?
The Messiah is a person or like a prophet
Could have
that
just
is
said the Messiah.
messianic figure, a Messiah. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyway, this Messiah is going to come and create a single Islamic state that will apply Islamic laws as revealed to the Prophet, and those will be applied to this world in this one great, wonderful, idyllic Islamic thing happening.
Right.
There you go.
So the Shias are within the Shia Muslim community.
Mm-hmm.
There are, just like in Christianity, the outliers.
Oh,
There are
absolutely.
The crazies,
Yes.
such as Taliban.
Oh, yeah.
So they're Shia. They they're Shia though.
Are they Shia or are they Sunni? I'm not sure.
Oh, you know what?
I know Hamas and what's the other group? Hezbollah are Shia.
Right.
I'm not sure if the Taliban is Shia or Sunni.
I
My
kinda feel like
guess
they're
is I
Shia.
think they're Shia,
Yeah.
but I could be wrong. Either way, in any religious tradition, and we've talked about this, in any religious tradition, you're going to get the extremist outlier that feels like violence is okay, that their interpretation of the religion is the only one.
Right.
But I'm going to emphasize that word interpretation because
just like Christianity.
Just like, and Judaism,
And Judaism
and
every,
Hinduism,
every
and Buddhism.
religion. Yes.
Not as much in Buddhism, but you know.
Are you biased?
No.
I'm just kidding. No, there's not a lot. You're right. You're right, though.
Yeah.
I mean, and so across religions, there's
Yeah, but across religions, and,
outliers
yeah.
and
right.
in-laws and outlaws.
Even in like neo-paganism, you have
Yeah,
wacky
weirdos.
outliers.
Yeah,
yeah.
collect dragons. But I'm just saying. But hey, if any of you guys collect dragons, that's awesome. You do you. But what I was going to say is there's also within Islam, between the Sunnis and the Shias, there's also very peaceful people who are trying to make peace
yes.
and have a peaceful existence next to each other,
Absolutely.
which is really nice.
100%. Next. All right. Then there are the Sunni, and this mosque is from Egypt, and I was actually in this mosque once. It's really pretty.
Weird flex.
What?
Nothing.
Weird flex.
No, I'm totally joking. It's not even a weird flex. It's awesome that you were there.
Oh, okay. So anyway, the Sunni make up about 85% or more of the Islamic world. According to them, the Prophet did not designate a successor, and leadership was not supposed to be in any way determined by kinship to the Prophet. And so at their little meeting that was happening while Ali was away washing the body of the Prophet, so anyway, they determined that the Prophet's father-in-law, how this is not kin, I don't know, the Prophet's father-in-law, Abu Bakr, should be the first caliph, or the first political leader. Relative to the Shia, the Sunni are much more about the basics, but mysticism actually grows out of the Sunni tradition, and this becomes Sufism, but we'll get to them later on.
Sufis.
Sufis.
I love me a Sufi.
Everybody loves them a Sufi. Mm-hmm. Whirling dervishes and stuff.
Exactly. Hot Sufi. Coming in hot.
Oh.
Just saying. Okay. Shut up.
You know they take a vow of celibacy, right?
That's not what I was talking about.
Oh,
Where
okay.
was your mind?
I don't know. Anyway, so the Sufis come out of this. The Sunni are majority in places like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and a lot of other places all over the world. The Sunnis kind of have dominance. All righty. What do they share, though, right? What is at the core of Islam? And at the core of Islam are 5 pillars.
Shahada.
Shahada, which is the statement of faith. So it generally goes something like, there is no God but God, and prophet is his final and greatest prophet, something to that effect. It doesn't count when I say it because I don't actually believe it, so it's okay.
Salah.
Salah is prayer 5 times a day, always towards Mecca.
Zakat.
Zakat is the giving of alms or charity. About 2.5% of your gross monthly income should go to charity.
2.5?
Yep.
That's a really fair number.
That is a very fair number.
Yeah. Hajj.
The Hajj is the pilgrimage to Mecca that you have to do at least one time in your life, assuming you are financially and physically able to.
And fasting, which is exactly why I cannot participate in Islam.
The fasting during Ramadan. So Ramadan is a particular month in Islam, and it commemorates the founding of the Quran. So we're going to go through these in a little more detail. So prayer.
Oh, look at that little guy.
I know. I just loved him. He was so sweet.
Oh my God, he's adorable. I can't.
You're learning how to pray.
Right? Oh my gosh.
So you pray 5 times a day. At dawn, at noon, in the afternoon, in the evening, and at night. And you follow a particular physical formula, and I'll show that to you in a minute. And while you're praying, particular verses from the Quran are recited either silently or aloud. And then the community comes together on Friday afternoon for afternoon prayers on Friday. And that's kind of like, that would be the equivalent of going to church on Sunday, right? You go to the mosque and everybody gets together and prays together.
And if you want to hear something really freaking beautiful, hop on YouTube and listen to a call to prayer in like Istanbul or
well, I gave them.
Where?
I already gave them a link on there.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, to hear the call of prayer. It was so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Oh, I was in Egypt one time. I was on top of a big citadel from the medieval or late medieval period, and we were up there looking out across like the dozens of minarets across Cairo, right?
Oh my gosh.
And then the call to prayer went out. And there was like being done on loudspeakers all over Egypt. It was freaking amazing.
That must have been just giving you chills.
Oh, absolutely. Amazing. The prayer. So here you go. This is what the physical prescription, I guess. First, you wash your hands and feet when you're going into the mosque. You never kneel directly on the ground, and most Muslims will carry around a prayer rug with them. And then they go through the ritual motions while saying the prescribed verses from the Quran. If you go into a mosque, that's one of the reasons they have a huge number of rugs everywhere, right? And the floor, and it's like a wide open space inside the mosque so that everybody can gather together and pray. But you'll notice like a church has pews, a mosque is just open floor, so everybody can kneel and go through the motions. They do, of course, have modifications. For me, if I were to become Muslim, I cannot kneel on the ground. I just can't. My knees can't do that anymore. So they do make accommodations for all kinds of things.
Because they're human.
They are human. They're
And
very
this is
reasonable.
churchy stuff.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
not church. But
Mosque-y stuff.
Mosque-y.
I don't know about that.
What do you call a tiny mosque?
A mosquette?
A mosquito.
Oh, that's bad. That's
I
so
know.
bad.
I know.
All right. Zakat. Zakat, you have to declare your intention, and it can be silent, to give, and you should give preferably anonymously.
Of course.
Of course. So, for example, if you give to a homeless person and they use that money badly, that's not about you. You are not responsible for how the money gets used. That is between them and their God or their conscience or whatever. However, the zakat usually comes in the form of a tax, and then the proceeds are redistributed for holy sites, for maintenance of mosques and whatnot, and then it's also redistributed to the needy and whatnot, supporting families and everything.
Sweet.
If you cannot afford to pay the zakat, you can pay in kind. So you can volunteer at the mosque, you can do volunteer work elsewhere. If you can't afford to do it monetarily, you can do it with energy and time or something to that effect. All right? The meaning is equal to the money as long as it's done in the name and the service of God, Allah. Pretty cool?
Yeah, I like it.
I like it too. The Hajj.
Oh my gosh. This is an amazing thing to watch a documentary on, and there is a documentary out there. Where did we watch that documentary?
I want to say it was PBS, and
Probably.
I wanted to look for it and actually put the link up.
Oh my gosh.
Really
Such
amazing.
An amazing thing to watch. And especially the inner circle with the men in the circle.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You guys, check it out.
So in the period of ignorance, which is what they refer to the time before the prophet. So we have like the period of ignorance, the prophet, and then regular history. I talked a little bit about the Kaaba already being there, right? And it was already the focus, the religious focus of all the Bedouin tribes. One of the things you were supposed to do is go around the Kaaba 7 times. One of the things you do in Islam now is go around the Kaaba 7 times. So these traditions that are in Islam, actually a lot of them are coming from the pre-Islamic world. All right. Let's see here. Of course, there are a lot more people. This is the Grand Mosque in Saudi Arabia, and I would just like you to take a second and think about the logistical nightmare on this one. Hundreds of millions of people come every year to this place
At the same time.
at the same time in the middle of the desert, just making everybody there able to get to a bathroom.
Yeah.
That alone is a logistical nightmare. Making sure everybody stays hydrated.
Making sure everybody stays together.
Oof. Yeah.
Getting lost.
Oh my gosh. So a Muslim has to go at least once in their lifetime, assuming they're able. And it's during the 12th month of the lunar calendar. So the time that they go tends to move throughout our calendar. But yeah, there you go. They are supposed to wear 2 white sheets. So everybody dresses basically the same. And there's a reason for this. When you go on the Hajj, one of the points of the Hajj is that everybody from the king of Saudi Arabia to the poorest of the poor are the same and equal in the eyes of Allah.
Don't you love that? I love that.
So I've actually had Saudi students talk about the king when he went, the crown prince right now I have issues with, but the former
Let's
king.
not talk about that guy.
The king previously went on the Hajj and was going around the Kaaba with millions of people around him, wearing 2 white, simple sheets, doing his thing, and he was just one of the crowd.
Love it.
So everybody wears basically the same thing. It has a huge impact on the people who do it. So, for example, Malcolm X was a civil rights leader. But unlike Martin Luther King, he initially condoned violence. He wasn't, go out and fight, but his attitude was if they're going to hit you, hit back.
Yeah.
Totally understandable. After going on the Hajj, he came back as a pacifist and started talking to Martin Luther King Jr. Unfortunately, they both lost their lives before they could collaborate in a big way. Before beginning the ritual, the pilgrims, before going on the Hajj, have to wash, and then they have to refrain from clipping their nails, shaving, having sex. They have to refrain for a time from harming plants or animals. They're not allowed to carry weapons. They're not allowed to wear regular clothing once they're on the Hajj, and they're not allowed to get married before or during the pilgrimage either. So it's like this, there's a matter of cleansing beforehand and then staying pure during the Hajj. There's lots of rituals around it, and I don't have time to get into that. But if you watch the documentary, it was about a group of American Muslims, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. And their journey to go on the Hajj together. Some of the rituals include things like holding a vigil at Met Ararat, or Arafat, sorry.
No.
Arafat, it's a typo on my notes.
It's Mount Arafat?
Yep. Ararat's in a different area.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. But that's where the prophet supposedly gave his last sermon. They spend the night in the open air in an area nearby, praying and gathering pebbles. And later on, they're going to take those pebbles and throw them at 2 stone pillars that are symbolic of Satan. So they take their pebbles and they throw it at the pillar, yelling about how much they hate Satan. There is an animal sacrifice later on. They ritually shave their hair off now that they have let it grow. Women typically clip some of their hair. They don't shave their whole head. And there's a bunch of other rituals, but the whole thing takes about 6 days. And believe it or not, and I found this really funny, but really just kind of interesting, there are so many people that go on the Hajj that on the night where they collect the pebbles and then they throw them at the pillars, the Saudi government has to go in, collect the pebbles from the pillar area, and put them back in the desert.
Because there's so many.
Because there's so many people, there's no pebbles left. So they have to restock the rocks on the ground because there's just so many people there doing it and taking pebbles out of the desert. All right. The fasting during Ramadan. If you do know a Muslim and you find out that they are fasting, the proper thing to say is Ramadan Mubarak. So it's kind of like saying Happy Thanksgiving or Merry Christmas. You're saying Blessed Ramadan. Ramadan is a month in the lunar calendar. They fast from sunup to sundown. no food, no drink, no sex, no cigarettes.
No, thank you.
The official line is that in Mecca, when you can no longer tell the black thread from the white, right? So when the sun goes down and you can't distinguish those two, you can start eating again. As soon as you can tell the black thread from the white, you stop eating, stop drinking, etc. There are some people who take this so seriously, and I've had some, especially the Saudi women in my classes sometimes, would come in with like a roll of toilet paper, and anytime they collected any saliva in their mouth, they would spit it out. They would not swallow their own saliva.
That's extreme.
There you go. This is meant to provide a time of reflection and show practice and piety. It's also a time to remember and give to the needy. Again, there are exceptions for this. If you are pregnant or nursing, if you are sick, if you are like, I think it's up to 10 years old or something like that, you don't have to. And if you're aged, if you're elderly, you don't have to. For example, diabetics cannot do this, right? And so they don't make them do this at all. Sometimes, though, if you have to miss a day or several days on Ramadan, you can make up those fasting days later on. So very often Muslims will be fasting on a random day to make up time that they missed from the sacred fast. This commemorates the Prophet receiving the Quran on the night of power and the subsequent nights that it was given. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's also, if you live in a Muslim community, it really is.
I'm sure it's very community building and everybody doing it together. Okay, that's really neat. Blah,
Yes.
blah, blah,
Yada, yada, yada.
etc.
I'm not going to see you with a roll of toilet paper anytime soon.
I am not spitting into a roll of toilet paper
All right.
for any god or deity of any kind.
Okay.
Not happening.
All right. Two major holidays that both groups share. All right. Eid al-Fitr. Eid al-Fitr is the breaking of the Ramadan fast. And you can imagine any holidays that you might have where you get together and you eat a lot of food. After fasting for a month, the food is amazing, right? When people are on Ramadan, they're waking up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, depending on what time of year it is. Ramadan travels throughout the calendar, so Ramadan in August is hell.
Ew.
Ramadan in January, not as bad.
Probably pretty cold.
Cold, but at least you're not sweating to death, and
Yeah, that's true.
the days are a lot shorter.
Right.
Think about that.
Good point.
So, Eid al-Fitr is a huge thing for families to get together. You get together at the family patriarch's house. You eat a huge amount of food. Children typically get gifts.
Now, I am down with this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't be down with this?
Right.
Children get gifts. People might decorate their homes. There's often fireworks going out. You get to wear your best clothes or you get to buy new clothes. And of course, there are special prayers that get associated with it.
So it's like 4th of Christmas, July.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In Turkey, they go and pay respects to their deceased, which is interesting. In Saudi Arabia, they when you die, they just bury you kind of in an unmarked grave. Like, here's a field of Marley. Excuse me. Marley.
Hey, get out of there, you sicko.
Sorry. Marley's our dog.
Yep.
So in Saudi Arabia, when you die, you just get put in kind of an unmarked grave in a field. Because the body is just the crude.
Vessel.
It's just a crude vessel for the soul. Right?
Huh.
And you figure their heritage is Bedouin. And so when you pass away in a tribe that's constantly moving, it's
Right, yeah. It doesn't
cemeteries
really-
aren't really practical.
Yeah, right.
But in Turkey, they go and pay their respects to the deceased. So they go and visit the cemetery and hang out for a while. In Egypt, people don't just gather at the patriarch's house. They have big old street parties.
Okay, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
I'm down.
And the Egyptians have really good food.
Oh my gosh, such good food.
Although I still say the best falafel I ever had was in Jerusalem. Freaking street food. It's so good.
Man, the best falafel I've ever had was in Atwater Village.
Atwater Village?
Yeah.
Where is that?
It's in California.
In California? In LA?
Yeah. It's where Michael lives.
Oh, okay.
Jeez.
I'm sorry. Good friend of ours.
Yeah, I'm not as well traveled as my sister, so
And I suck at geography, so there you go.
she'll never know.
I'll never know.
It's really far away. Atwater Village. I have the stamp on my passport.
You're cute. The second major festival that they share is Eid al-Adha.
Tell me that he's just snuggling that sheep.
No,
Tell me he's not going to rip it apart.
I wish I could.
I don't like that boy.
It is also a big feast. It celebrates the willingness of Abraham, or in Arabic, Ibrahim, his willingness to sacrifice his son for God. So in the Bible as well as
I see
in the
where this is
Quran,
going for the sheep.
Abraham is told to take his son Isaac to the top of a hill, and he is told, "This is your only son,
That
but you will
sheep's going to a
sacrifice
hill.
him. You will sacrifice him for me."
Sheep is going to a hill.
Abraham goes to sacrifice his son, but God provides a substitute at the last second.
I know what the substitute is. I don't like it.
I'm just saying, I want to point out that the relationship I know,
Go
he's
ahead.
very fluffy. The relationship between Abraham and Isaac after that was probably questionable.
I would think so, but look how fluffy and white and sweet that. Look at his face. Oh, sheepy. Stinks.
During the festival, an animal, usually a sheep, a goat, a ram, or a camel, or an ox.
A camel.
Oh, yeah.
I like
Saud-
how you're excited. Oh, yeah.
Well, no, the Saudis really love
What?
camel.
Next slide.
Well,
I don't like this.
I'm almost done.
Fine.
It's ritually sacrificed, and then it's divided into three parts. One third of the meat goes to the needy, 1/3 of the meat goes to your home, and then 1/3 of the meat goes to your relatives.
So it's a big meat fest, and everybody gets the meat sweats.
That is very true.
Okay.
Okay. During
Disgusting.
the festival, of course, there are special prayers involved.
I bet. God, please forgive me for being horrible to these animals.
You're having chicken tonight.
I don't want to talk. God made chicken on yellow foam wrapped in plastic.
Mm-hmm.
Move on.
Okay. This is typically celebrated at the end of the Hajj. So this is kind of like you get the Hajj and then Eid al-Adha. Ramadan is a month long, and then Eid al-Fitr. The Shia have a lot more holidays. The Shia tend to celebrate their saints. They tend to bring in lots of other things with it. The Sunni have kind of a more stripped down version of the
Shia have
tradition.
saints?
So to review thus far, the Prophet Muhammad is the founder of tradition, peace be upon him. The book is the Quran. The primary articles of faith are the 5 pillars, and we have 2 major sects, the Sunni, which are the majority, and the Shia. All right? Pretty easy so far, right?
Uh-huh. And they kill sheep.
In the next YouTube video, we're going to talk about how the Quran became a book. What is Sharia law? What is the Hadith?
Terrible.
The Hadith literature. The Jihad, which there's lots of talk about that.
I also am putting a jihad on Nancy right now for discussing my dating in the 90s. So just want to let you guys know that. Watch your backs. Go ahead.
And veiling. All right? We will see. I will see you later. Possibly we will see. We'll see what happens with that. She might be taking a nap. Who knows?
Who knows? A dirt nap.
That is not going to happen.
No, it's not.
Anyway, we will see you later, and have a good weekend
Have a
or a
great
good
weekend.
week, and take care of yourselves and be safe. Okay?
Please do. Stay well. Stay healthy.
Yes.
Stay hydrated.
Yes.
Hey, burn a candle. It'll make you feel better.
Yeah. Sure.
What?
Nothing. All right.
Oh, they don't know you make candles, do they?
I don't remember if I told him that or not.
Oh.
Oh well. All right, we make candles.
We make candles.
I'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye, guys.